So, inshallah, we'll make a start. Alhamdulillah, نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Um, so, we're discussing about the Battle of Tabuk. So, that's where we were last week. And more specifically, we were discussing uh, why what was the names of the battles given. Do you remember any? Yeah. So Ghazwat Tabuk and Jaish al-Usra. So that's the two names given. So what was why Tabuk?
Because of the well.
Yeah. And why Jaish al-Usra?
Because it means the group of hardship.
Yeah. So Jaish means a group. Well done. And Usra means hardship. So like in the surah which I read in the second raka, which what does it say?
I don't remember.
Alam nashrah laka sadrak wa wada'na anka wizrak.
التي أنقذ ظهرك ورفعنا لك وإن مع العسر يسرا فإن مع العسر يسرا.
Yeah. Inna ma'al usri yusran. Yusran. Jaish al-usra, usran, same word. So there's always, with difficulty there is ease. Yusra means ease. Usra means difficulty. So Allah says that there is always going to be ease with the difficulty. So in ma'al usri yusra. So indeed, ma'al means together.
Ma'al.
With, yeah.
Right.
Is the right word to translate ma'al? Ma'al means when there are two things together, close to each other. So I'm going with you, so I can say ma'al for you. So you're going with me, like we are going together. So I would
So
use
is it in the context of with, as in I'm
together.
going with someone, or
Yeah,
with, as
so
in
together. Somebody says something is together with another thing. So
I think, sorry. Yeah, here also you can look at it. The way I sort of explain all this is that there is always like a silver lining after a rain.
yeah.
So they associate.
So
the rain
they're
with
both
silver
together.
lining.
So yeah.
This is us. Or there's a light at the end of the tunnel. So
Yeah.
the two are complement.
Yeah, so they go like hand in hand. So they both go. So Allah is saying that whenever, basically it is that if you got a difficulty, then remember that every difficulty comes with an ease. So if you are in a hard, if you are having some hard time, just make sure, just remember that there's some good times coming afterwards. So that's Jeshal Osra. That's basically what the same word. Um, so that these are the names. Why did it happen? So that's the second question. So because there was no actual battle, as we said, so it's important. It's a lot of hadith, lots of importance of this battle, but not because of the actual battle, because there was no battle. So it was just more of an expedition. Prophet ﷺ went there, they stayed, and then they came back. There was no actual battle. So there was no other army which turned up. So there was no battle happened. So it's important
Then
because,
what was the point of going?
so that's the thing. So why did it happen? So that's why we need to discuss that. Why Prophet ﷺ took that expedition when there was no actual battle which happened
Was
at
there
the end of
anything
it.
precipitating it? Was there not anything that happened?
So there's
before?
multiple accounts to it. There are multiple reasons which the scholars have given. So one opinion is that which Ibn Asakir has mentioned, who's a famous historian. He mentioned that mean, this is mentioned by Al-Baghawi, who's another famous scholar, and Ibn Kathir as well, that the Jews enticed Prophet ﷺ to go on that war, and they basically kind of made up things and enticed Prophet ﷺ to go on this war against the Romans, and that's why Prophet ﷺ took the expedition, which doesn't make much sense. The reason why is that there are no Jews in Medina at the time of Tabuk, and I mean, the sources they haven't
So the
really
Jews enticed them
to go
to go to fight with the Jews or to fight
no
someone
fight the
else?
Romans. They
The
are not Jews,
Romans, right?
so Romans are Christians.
Yeah.
Yeah. So go and fight against, and you will get a lot of booty, or you should expand your
Okay, so it
uh,
was the Jews. So
state
this
and
version is the Jews enticing them to go fight with the Romans
the
or someone
Romans.
else.
Yeah, Romans.
Yeah.
So that's
so the way
that's
that you said it sounded like the Jews were to fight the Jews.
no, no, not the Jews. The Jews enticed Prophet Sallallahu to go on this expedition.
Right.
So, which I mean, lots of other scholars have disagreed with. I mean, that's their opinion. That's what they have thought of. But it doesn't necessarily. Well, it doesn't make much sense to me as well. But um, and I'm not the only one with the thinking. Other scholars have thought the same thing, that there are no Jews in Medina. So how would they come and entice Prophet Sallallahu? So this is in the more modern times. This opinion has been kind of casted on one side, so that it's been kind of rejected mostly. So that's one opinion. So the second opinion, which makes more sense, and it's been mentioned by Nuruddin Haythami, he in his Majmua al-Zawaid, which is that the Muslims found out that the Romans are sending an expedition against the Muslims. So Prophet Sallallahu found out that Romans are sending an expedition against the Muslims, and according to this report, there was about 40,000 Roman troops which came to fight the. So Romans sent 40,000 troops, 40, mm, an army of 40,000 uh, to to come and fight against the Muslims, and Prophet Sallallahu, rather than waiting for them to turn up on the doorsteps of Medina, Prophet ﷺ went out to meet them at the border of this new Islamic State, which is there, rather than them waiting for them to turn up. And this is more famous opinion, which has been used by a lot of books. Again, there are two problems with that. One, that there was no army in the end, so there was no army which turned up. Second is that Romans didn't really took serious. Roman didn't take Muslims or Arabs seriously, because according to them, these are backward people who have got no army, they have got no fighting skill, they have got no armors. Basically, they didn't really care what they are doing or not doing. So for them, it's the same thing in today's it's America, who's the superpower. Well, they did. I was about to say, but they did come and fought against Afghanistan, so they actually did that. But I mean, it's
Well,
like
yeah,
a
but
small.
that was after.
Yeah, I mean that's a different thing. But like a small country which is far, far away from them. I'm just thinking an island, Maldives or something, with a small island, or Isles of Man or Isle of Scilly or something. Like Americans thinking, oh, Isles of Scilly is coming to attack us, so we'll go and attack them. So it was that much of a difference between Romans and the Arabs of the time of the Muslims. They had no organization, no proper setup of a country. They didn't really have much of civilization. There was nothing. There was no money. There was no education. There was nothing. So they didn't really think anything of Muslim. So they won't really bother about coming and fighting against the Muslims. So and all the fights happened when the Muslim actually took the fight to them. Um, so that's in the time of Umar Razil and later on, and when they started growing and when they defeated the Persian Empire, which was the other biggest empire. So after so there were like two superpowers, Romans and the Persians. So the Muslims defeated the
Well, all
Persians.
of the Persians Zoroastrians.
Yeah, well, at that time they were.
So that was the main religion of
Yeah.
Persia.
Now,
Right.
obviously, Persia is all Muslim.
Yeah.
Uh, so, um, so that so they when they defeated the Persians, then Romans started taking notice of Muslims. Okay, they are a political entity and they're a political force. So they started taking notice of them because they have defeated the second biggest superpower of the time. But before that, they didn't really bother much about the Muslims. So that's another reason why it doesn't really sound right. But and there's not much to find because Romans, we know that they have got history, written history, and they had historians which were recording all of that. So you don't find much in their books about this incident. So you don't find a lot of things written in their books. It could be biased that they didn't want to write, but that's a separate story. But but still, it's possible. So there's another possibility is that the Romans were trying to attack the Muslim, and Prophet ﷺ preempted that attack and went out uh, of the Medina to meet up with them so that they don't come and start fighting in Medina because after Uhud, Prophet ﷺ said that after today, we will be the ones who will meet the enemy outside. So as soon as somebody's making preparation for the war, Prophet ﷺ would go out and meet them rather than waiting for them to turn up on the doorsteps of Medina. Uh, so that's another thing. So the third thing is that the Muslims went to fight against the Ghassanids. Ghassanids are not, they are Arabs,
Bedouins.
not Bedouins, but they were living on the border of Roman Empire. But
Right.
they are Arabs, but they are living on the borders of the Roman Empire, and they have accepted Christianity, and they had very strong ties with the Roman Empire. So they were very friendly with the Roman Empire. So it says that the Ghassanids were trying to attack the Muslims, not the Romans itself, and that's where Prophet ﷺ went to meet them, the Ghassanids. And there is an incident which kind of say makes it more stronger opinion because there was a incident which we will discuss in a bit more detail when Prophet ﷺ had a dispute with his wives because they were asking for bigger houses and more money and things like that, and Prophet ﷺ got irritated and he basically um, kind of boycotted all of them and came and started living in the masjid for a whole month. So he was living in the masjid. So he got angry.
How did he boycott his wife? Like, how does that work?
So he left the house and started living in the masjid.
I thought boycott means that like
That's just a word. So basically, he left them, didn't divorce them. He just left them and started living. So he basically separated himself from
That
his
is
wives.
a question that I've always had. How did he work out the relationship with each of his wives? Was it that he spent a certain amount of time with each one?
Yeah. So they had particular set of days which he would spend.
So it wasn't like like a week and then a week with one, and then a week with another. It
You
was
know,
just
so one night, one night, one night.
right. Okay.
So a day, a day, a day.
Yeah.
Um, so he was living um, in the masjid for that period of time, and that one of the Sahabi, he came running to say, "Oh, something really bad has happened," and he came running to Umar radiallahu anhu to say something really bad has happened. Basically, he saw Prophet Sallallahu living in the masjid, so they thought they obviously realized that he's having some trouble with his wives. That's why he has left them and he's living in the masjid. So he came running to Umar radiallahu anhu that something bad has happened. And why Umar radiallahu anhu specifically?
He's strict.
One thing. What else is important when it comes to Prophet Sallallahu and wives? So wives of Prophet Sallallahu, who are those? Any names come to mind?
I know Umar Raz's daughter is one of
Yes.
them.
Yeah,
I
so
forget
Umar
the name.
radiallahu anhu is not only a Sahabi, but he is, but he's also the father-in-law of Prophet Sallallahu.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one of it,
What's the age difference between the Prophet? No, was it Tananto?
and
And the Prophet. And
they were similar age,
right.
so younger. But they used to get married quite at
Yeah,
a
no,
young
I'm
age.
just saying that the relation is father-in-law, but it wasn't like a father-son relationship.
No, no,
obviously.
no, no, no. So there was a similar age.
Yeah.
Who was the daughter of Umar radiallahu anhu?
Hafsa. Yeah, so Hafsa radiallahu anha is the daughter, so she is one of the wives. So Umar radiallahu anha can go and ask and maybe kind of tell her off. So that was one of the reasons why they were coming to Umar radiallahu anha, because they knew that Umar radiallahu anha is quite strict. Um, so Umar radiallahu anhu, so he came running, and something really bad has happened, and then Prophet says, so he woke up and he said, "What happened? Did the kings of Ghassanid attack Medina?" So there were some kind of rumors, or there were some talks about Ghassanis thinking of attacking the Muslims. So from that narration, from that passing remark of Umar radiallahu anhu, we found out that there is some truth about this opinion that the Ghassanids were thinking of attacking, and there was some rumors going on that the Ghassanids are preparing to attack the Muslims, and that's why Prophet Sallallahu went on to meet the Ghassanids at Tabuk. So that's third opinion. The fourth opinion is that Prophet Sallallahu went to take the revenge of Mu'tah. So Mu'tah, remember, Battle of Mu'tah, which was against the Romans, and what happened in Mu'tah?
I think I'll say that one.
Hmm?
And I think I'll say that one.
Probably was, but which is the Battle of Mu'tah? Which battle Hamza Razultaran died in? So Uhud. Yeah, so that's the second battle. So not Mu'tah. So three of the Prophet ﷺ gave the flag to three. Once he told that this will be,
Right.
so Zayd bin Harith was Harith, and then Jafar ibn Abi Talib, and then Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah. So the three Sahabi, there were all three big names, and he gave the command um, to his adopted son, Zayd bin Haris, and he said that if he dies, then this will become your leader, and if he dies, then
Yeah.
he will become your leader, and if he dies, then the Muslims can choose their leader amongst themselves. And who became the leader?
Uh, Khalid ibn Walid.
Khalid bin Walid. Radhiyallahu anhu. That's when he got the name. What is his name? His
Saifullah.
Saifullah. So that's when Prophet Sallallahu, when he came back, Prophet Sallallahu said that a saif from means Sayufullah. So saif means Sayufullah. So one of the swords from the swords of Allah has managed to um, win the
They won
war.
the fight.
Hmm?
They won the fight. They won
They
Mothra.
didn't really win the fight. They basically just managed to escape without much harm.
Right.
So they were,
Was that when they retreated from their area?
yeah. So they retreated, and Khalid bin Walid used a very kind of clever tactics, and he sent a part of his army in the middle of the night to a far area, and he said to make a big line and kind of basically just trample on the ground to make a big sandstorm. So just show that like a big lots of people are coming, to just show that. And the next day, and he started retreating his army. And when the enemy army, they saw that there's a big sand kind of cloud on the far side is rising up on the horizon, they realize that they have actually got is help.
Mhm.
So they have got some more people coming to join them, so there's a big army coming to help them. So that's why they didn't follow them. And Khalid ibn Walid managed to get mm, everybody out without much harm. So that's one of the reasons. So the Mu'ta was because Prophet Sallallahu said it's a win. Yes, we consider it a win. Another reason we consider it as a win is because um, they managed to get out without much kind of a physical harm to the army. They didn't lose a lot of soldiers, so that's why we consider it as a win. But other than that, it was not a win because they were they lost their leaders, all three of them, and there was quite a few people who actually got killed. And then in the end, they had to retreat back. So it wasn't really a win. Uh,
Who was the enemy army? Who was the enemy army again?
the Ghassanids and Romans.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Uh, so, uh, so this was a revenge for Mu'ta. So that's another opinion. So they think that it's a revenge for Mu'ta. Uh, the fifth opinion is that because none of those have very strong reason to believe that, okay, yeah, this definitely is the reason why Prophet Sallallahu went there. So it's a little bit unclear. So the majority scholars say that it was a test for the Muslims because Allah commanded Prophet ﷺ to take the Muslims on this expedition. It was a direct command of Allah, and that's why everybody who could fight was supposed to join the army. So there was no excuses. So everybody had to go, and that was to show the who are the hypocrites, who are not really true Muslims. So that was one of the main reasons why this was done. um, and it was on everybody. It was kind of mandatory, so it was further on everybody to go. And we will see when people didn't go, they actually got punished for that, who didn't join the army. And it was a test, and that was one of the reasons why it was done at such a difficult time. It was really hot months, and as we discussed, that why it was called Jeshur Osra. It was in the middle of the hottest months, July, August time. It was when the harvest was ready, and everybody was like thinking, oh, maybe we should actually get the harvest, and before we go, it was not really a good time to go for a walk. But that was another reason. And it was the biggest army. It was the farthest they have to travel for an expedition. So all of those difficulties. So it was really difficult journey, and it was actually the test for the Muslims. And the other thing which Prophet ﷺ wanted to suggest to the Muslims, not in direct way but indirect way, that look, this is where you have to actually go from here onwards. So these are the lands you have to spread Islam to, and get them under control of Islam. So, and that's what happened. So, after Prophet ﷺ passed away, in few years' time, all of those lands were conquered, and they were taken into the fold of Islam. And that's Sahaba actually realized that that's what Prophet ﷺ wanted us to go to, and they did actually go that way. Um, so that's up north from Medina. So it was a test, basically. It was a big test for the Muslims, and it was a command of Allah. That's why he was taken. They they went that way. And I mean, there are ayahs in the Quran which kind of tells us. Um, um, so that's the Usra which was used. They tried their what is called, so so that's the, I mean, as I said, with the people who consider the Jews entice the Prophet ﷺ, they think that this ayah refers to that they tried their best and they almost succeeded getting rid of you from the land, but if they were to succeed, they themselves would only last for a short while before Allah would have destroyed them. So that Allah is talking about the Jews in this ayah. So they think, the scholars who take that the Jews have enticed Prophet ﷺ to go into this war, they take the tafsir of this ayah is that Allah is talking about the Jews because of what they told Prophet ﷺ about the Tabuk.
Sorry, on the second possible reason, God only knows, Allahu A'lam. The way I heard it, I can't remember whether it was the book or different. It actually, and I heard it more than once, it's only an opinion.
Yeah.
I can see the reasoning behind the various reasons. Is that actually the Prophet ﷺ went out with 20 strong to stop the army, the Roman army
Yeah.
that coming.
Yeah.
And they thought that the reason the battle didn't take place, that the Caesar
Yeah.
died actually, who ordered this one.
Hercules
And
and
when they go
yeah.
into the Roman history, the timing of the death of the Kaiser tied up
Yeah.
with the timing of going. So again, that's not a
Yeah.
strong opinion.
Yeah.
That's was a quite strong reason.
Yeah.
This is I heard it from more
Yeah.
than one
Yeah.
source.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm saying this is an opinion, which is quite
This
quite a
is a bit
famous
more.
one. Yeah, so amongst the books in the Sira books, this is one of the famous opinions which has been mentioned, that the Romans were bringing an army, but they in the end they didn't decide not to come, um, for whatever the reason was. Either the Caesar died, the king died, or they just decided not to come for any other reason, but they didn't come. But they were preparing an army, and that was the reason why Prophet actually advanced his army to meet them. So, and it is, as I mentioned, it is one of the most famous ones, the most famous opinion. So, but means, as I said, it's another opinion is that it's a command, direct command from Allah. The Quran says, "Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu qatilu alladhina yalunakum min al-kuffari wa وَلْيَجِدُوا فِيكُمْ غِلْظَةً وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَ الْمُتَّقِينَ." O you who believed, fight those surrounding you of the disbelievers and let them find in you harshness, and know that Allah is with the righteous. So this is the basically the direct command which Allah is given, and that's what Prophet ﷺ took it as a direct command, and he's asked everybody to come. Then comes because it is such a big expedition, which needs obviously lots of funds. So Prophet ﷺ, um, started collecting funds. So he said to that we would need um, some funds, and whoever fund um, the expedition, Allah will reward him the Jannah. And at this time, Uthman Razil Talanhu, because Uthman Razil Talanhu was a very big businessman. So he was a very rich businessman, and he had like a caravan which has gone out uh, on a trade mission. So he sent a caravan for trade, and the caravan came back. It was 100 camels, uh, mm, almost 100 camels, full of the goods and all the profits which has been made from that journey. And it was a big caravan, 100 camels, a lot of stuff. So the 100 camels, as Prophet ﷺ was collecting the funds, they just came back, and he brought the whole thing. So the whole caravan gave it to Prophet ﷺ, all of this, fi sabilillah, for the sake of Allah, I'm giving the whole thing. And the Sahaba says that um, we saw that, and then one of the Sahabi said that after this day, no matter what Uthman radiallahu anhu does, cannot harm him, because he
Did
has
he give the caravan for
full of
like
goods,
just
everything that
charity, or was it for this expedition specifically?
for this expedition. I mean, charity, but for specifically for this
Specifically just
expedition.
this expedition, and not
Yeah.
just in general.
No. Just he gave to Prophet ﷺ that use it.
Right.
So all the animals, all the goods, all the profit, everything.
So then, why was the journey so difficult for them?
So that, I mean, still, it was the, as I said, it was
But
the
if
hottest
if it's
months.
like 100 camels.
Yeah, but it was 20,000 people.
No, I mean it, but that could probably carry like a lot of food and water and some supplies.
Yeah, but
I'm just
no, that's what I'm saying. Means people used to actually at that time the army was not like today's army, so it was not funded by the state. So every soldier has to provide his own provision.
right. Okay, that one.
So they will have to go. They have to collect their own things and go.
Okay.
So that everybody has to, and that's why they would get a share of booty from the war. So that would
Right.
be their pay as such.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a paid army.
Okay.
So it was, and obviously the state didn't had that much money to fund the whole army. So the whole 100 camels would take 100 people, but not 20,000. It won't be enough for the whole 20,000 still. And then it is another famous story where um, Abu Bakr came with a lot of stuff with him. So Prophet ﷺ asked him, uh, Abu Bakr, have you left anything at home? No. Before that, Umar radiallahu anhu said, well, Abu Bakr always win from me in charity and in good deeds. So this time I'm going to do something which definitely I will win from Abu Bakr in terms of. So he collected everything which he had, and obviously they didn't had a lot. Even when he collected everything, it was still not much.
Yeah.
But he collected everything which he had, divided it half, and brought half of his wealth and gave it to Prophet ﷺ. And Prophet ﷺ, what have you left for yourself? He said, I have left half for myself. And he was quite happy that, uh, and Umar Razil Taala is telling himself that I was thinking that I will beat Abu Bakr today, radiallahu ta'ala anhu. So, and then he saw Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala came with a lot of stuff, and he brought this stuff, and he said to Prophet Sallallahu, I brought this. And Prophet Sallallahu asked him, what have you left for yourself? And he said, I've left Allah and His Messenger, uh, the name of Allah, Allah and His Messenger for me and my family. So he brought everything, whatever he had, he brought everything, 100% to for the expedition to give in charity. So Umar radiallahu anhu said, on that day, I realized that no matter what I do, I'm never be able to going to win from Abu Bakr. So I didn't even try after that. So that's that famous story which everybody has heard of that happened on Tabuk as well.
But it's not good that he left nothing for his family.
Is it not good?
Yeah. That he left nothing for his family.
So it gave everything in charity.
Yeah, but he didn't leave anything for his family either.
So he had tawakkul that Allah will look after the family.
Okay.
So Allah will provide them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't mean that people have to do the same thing. Everybody has to do the same thing. If looking after your family is important as well. But we cannot compete with the tawakkul of Abu Bakr and Umar radiallahu anhu. So Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, bring everything, and then there's one of the Sahabi who came with. He worked all night, and in the morning he just got, because he had no money whatsoever to give. So in the morning he came with a handful of dates which he um, got as a wage for working. And then he came and he didn't have anything, so he just brought all those dates and gave it to Professor Sam, that I've got only these things, so I've just brought these to you. And Professor Sam really praised him, and people started making fun of the Sahabi, and Prophet Sallam was quite angry with them. And then Allah revealed the message in the Quran as well, the greatness of that Sahabi who just brought a handful of dates. So, like, people gave quite generously. So that was another test to, from the funds point of view, that people would have to um, give a lot of charity. And then one of the Sahabi, he came and he was asking that he has got no animal um, to to travel. Um, and Prophet Sallallahu was giving, he was kind of distributing funds to the people, animals and whatever he has got, so that they can go on the expedition. And he came and he kept on asking and kept on asking. Prophet Sallallahu got a little bit irritated, and then he said, "Wallahi, I don't want uh, um, to give you anything. I will never give you anything." So it's Abu Musa who came, and Abu Musa came back. Um, so Prophet says, "Wallahi, I will not give you anything to travel upon." So he returned quite distressed, Abu Musa, back to his tribe, and he told the tribe that Prophet said, "I'm not going to give you anything." But then on the same day, some money came from somewhere, and Prophet purchased two animals and sent to Abu Musa's tribe, uh, b- because that's what he was asking for. So from that, the fiqh point comes that qasam, or the making an oath, um, if you are saying it as just as a way of expression, which Arabs have. Arabs use wallahi a lot in their talking, in the general. They just keep on saying wallahi, wallahi. As the Pakistanis, they keep on talking about kasme, kasme. So in everything, they would say kasme, kasme this, and kasme this, kasme Allah di, kasme this. So, so this is just as a part of their speech, as a habit. Then you don't need to give any um, so there's no punishment for you. Otherwise, you have to give kafara. So if you make an oath, genuine oath, and then you break that oath, you have to actually do the kafara, which is um, you have to fast or a few days, but without going into too much detail of the fiqh. But that's the. But if it is just a kind of a expression, way of expression, then you don't need to actually do that. So this is not count as the oath which you have to kind of pay. kafara for. Because Prophet ﷺ said, Wallahi, so this is the word which is
If you
used.
do
So
make
this
an
is,
oath and you die and it's never been fulfilled, but it's something that can be done by someone else, then are they allowed to do it for you and you wouldn't get they can do it on your behalf?
yes, they
So
can do
like
it. So if
I
you make an oath that, Wallahi, I will give you, if you give me this money, I will give you back. Like they've taken some loan and they made a qasam that I will give you back in a week's time,
yeah,
and they die, then obviously the sons have to, um, or the whoever is left after them have to fulfill that from whatever wealth he has left. So all the loans have to be paid first before they distribute the money amongst them. So inheritance is only after you have cleared the debts.
yeah.
So yes, so somebody else can do it.
I meant more in the sense that the person made the oath, but they didn't do it by choice. Like it's not like the one that you the example where if they said they'd do something in a week, but they died before the week was over. I meant more in the sense that you say you're going to do something, but then you don't do it. So does that then become someone
So
else's
they will become,
obligation?
no, they will, no, they, it won't become somebody else's issue. So your sins are for you uh, to bear on the day of judgment, because they will be answerable on the day of judgment. Now they have died, so obviously they can't really be punished by the state. By the So if somebody takes them to the court, then obviously they get punished by the court.
Yeah.
But they are dead. They are dead. So court can't do anything about it. Um, so they will be answerable on the day of judgment. But if the family thinks that, well, we should do that to avoid any punishment on the day of judgment, then they should do it, and make istighfar to Allah and make dua to Allah that Allah forgives them for not fulfilling the oath, but they have done it for them. Then maybe Allah will forgive them. Yeah, but so that, but that they don't have to do it.
Yeah.
That's the answer, because
So it doesn't
everybody
become
is
an
answerable
obligation.
for their own actions.
Yeah.
So we will stop here, inshallah, and we will pick up from here next week. Is there any questions, quick questions before we call it a day, or anything anybody wants to add? Say if you want to add something.
No, not really. I mean, it's a very good question, really. I mean, in our society, normally when somebody died, they say, forgive him, samahu. And then it's not unusual for people to come and ask, you know, I, he borrowed me this money,
Yeah,
so for me to pay back.
yeah.
It's sometimes it's hard because you don't have proof the person who's got it, so it's difficult choice. And
I mean, that's why in seerah you have to actually have witnesses.
yeah,
So if somebody borrows some money, so you should have witnesses, and that's why Professor some said that if you lend somebody some money or something, then you should kind of write
put
it
it in
down,
writing.
put it on paper, and have witnesses, two witnesses.
Uh, okay, yeah, but I have the technical question. When it said the after what Uthman has done today will not harm him, was that the Prophet saying that for him as like he's not gonna all of his sins are forgiven, or was that just